Okay, welcome everybody back to our YouTube channel here at Rekla Learning Studios. My name is Vanessa and I am glad you are joining me. Today we are working with the theme Teacher Energy, which is equal to student energy, right? So the more drained a teacher feels, the more behavior issues, the more trouble we have in the classroom with our students because they will feel the same thing. So let's get started. Today is a practical hands-on session where we're going to talk about 3 Rekla planning moves that keep students engaged without more work and burning out our teachers. Question. Here's our first question of the day. We're going to open today with a question. Have you ever felt like you're working harder than your students just to keep them engaged? In this day and age when kids are watching shorts and reels and their entertainment is constant, teachers have to work so hard to keep their students engaged. And you're not alone, right? We're all struggling in this same place. So in today's video, I'd like to share with you 3 Finnish aligned Rekla planning moves that will raise student engagement and protect your energy. Because when teachers feel calm and energized, then students will mirror that energy as well. Rekla is rooted in Finnish pedagogy and a system that is famous worldwide for combining high outcomes with teacher well-being. Very, very strong priority, making sure that teachers are feeling good and they're motivated and they have teacher agency. So as education researcher Pasi Salberg explains, less is more. In Finland, in any classroom that we want to have well-being for our teachers and our students, we can focus on less is more. That means fewer tests, shorter lectures, and more student agency, which creates a deeper learning without exhausting teachers and giving them extra work. So, part 1 or step 1. We're going to start with a spark. A spark, what I mean is we get things going. It's a warm-up. It's introducing the topic with inquiry, really getting their brains running and excited about what they're going to learn today. So a Rekla warm-up isn't just busy work. It's a spark for what's coming. Let me give you an example. So if you were having a math lesson and we want to teach greater than, less than, we can start by asking everybody to clap together. Everybody, let's clap 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then we give 5, ask them again. Okay, now let's clap 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And ask the students which is more. And you can do, the great thing about this is you can do this with your students, allowing them to take leadership and work as going through this introductory idea. In science, let's take that as an example. Maybe you want to show a photo and ask, what do you notice or what do you wonder? These short prompts, they connect directly to phenomenon-based learning and project-based learning. So both approaches begin with a real-world question or phenomenon. And a Rekla warm-up is a small-scale entry point. It trains students to notice, wonder, and connect. And the great thing is, right now, the trend in classrooms is to have more project-based learning, more phenomenon-based, real-world understanding. And doing the warm-up like this is the beginning foundation for helping our students to get interested in this kind of learning. So engagement begins with curiosity and not with a teacher putting up a lecture and notes and the students sitting quietly and listening. We want them engaged. So that's step 1. Step 2 is a circle time inquiry. If you have older students, you can call it a group discussion, where we start the group discussion and move into our main activities. So after the spark, we have our circle time, and then we work at uh, work at tapping into their prior knowledge. Students are never blank slates, right? They come to our class with all kinds of information. And so using the KWL chart works beautifully here. For those who are unfamiliar with this, a KWL chart is 3 questions. What do we know? What do we want to know? And then at the end of the lesson, you can close that circle with what did we learn? And so this discussion helps you to see where your learners are and where to guide them next, right? Because we don't, as Finnish teachers, we want to meet our students where they're at and move them forward. We don't want to just put a bunch of information on top of them, especially if they already know part of it, right? So we want to figure out where they are, and then we can adapt our lesson and move towards our goal, encouraging them to come along with us. So the next activity after our circle questions, our KWL chart, is the main activity. But here's the caution. This is not a time for a long lecture. This is a deep dive. So we do want to get into the meat of the lesson, but we need to be aware of how long we're going to be standing and talking. So especially for younger grades, I would encourage you to follow the age plus 2 rule. If your students are 7 years old, for example, first grade, the most that you should be standing up and talking at any one given time is, without active engagement, is 9 minutes. So age, they're 7 plus 2 more minutes. That's the max that we should be doing something as a teacher, imparting knowledge. The rest of the classroom time is interactive with small groups, peers, large groups, one-on-one or by themselves. All of those things need to be going on in the classroom. This keeps instruction short and clear, but it lets the students dive into the meat of what you're teaching. And the more space you give them to explore, the more engaged they'll be and the less energy as a teacher you will have to expend. All right, so our last step is getting the students to show, demonstrate, practice what they have learned, from the warm-up to the circle time to the main activity. And oftentimes, I recommend that you do this student-led exploration in the form of stations, where students are taking ownership of their learning time, doing the practicing on their own or in a small group, helping each other if somebody doesn't understand, and giving opportunities for leadership and for support. So this is where student agency really comes alive. Instead of every child working on a worksheet at their desk alone, where teachers have to walk around and try and help everybody, students rotate through stations. There could be 3, 4, 5, however many stations are suitable for your classroom size, for your student size. And then the stations are really up to you how much time you want to spend. If it's a more difficult concept, maybe spend a little bit more time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If it's an easier concept, then maybe only 5 minutes is needed to connect what was in main activity with actual learning outcomes. So let me just break down a few of these stations. This is what it would look like. If we were going to do a math lesson, for example, and we were going to compare greater than and less than. So I put a little chart up here. This is what our idea is here. So in station 1, we would have a building station where they're working on math and logic, reasoning skills, right? So students, maybe they're using blocks to build and compare those numbers. How tall is my tower? How many blocks were in my tower? That kind of thing. The second station is a PE and math station. So now we're getting physical activity into this. And students are going to show comparison through movement. One student stands at a line that's 3 marks or 3 feet. Another student stands at a line that's 5 feet. And they have to decide which line is longer, which line is bigger, which line is greater. Or students can hop or jump to represent numbers, right? And then compare how many jumps, how many hops, how far they went, that kind of thing. Another fun activity in this station might be a relay. One team is having to collect 4 bean bags, another is collecting 7. At the end, who has more? And this can be a station that can easily be done outside, in the gym, in the hallway if you have space, right? And then we're going to do station 3. We're going to be combining math with art. So you can see how we are beginning to cross subject our math lesson. We've so far included logic, PE, and now we're adding art. So students are drawing in this station, the groups of numbers, or they're using colors, they're designing. It's their learning and how they want to represent the concept of which is greater, which is less. And then the final station that I thought of, but again, you could do as many or as few as you want. But in this lesson, I would be doing a literacy station. Here, I'm going to be combining math with storytelling. So students are going to continue with the concept of comparing, but we're going to create a short story connected to this comparing. For example, a farmer had 4 cows. Her neighbor had 6. Who had more? How did the character feel? What did they do to help each other? You can incorporate SEL into a story. So there's a lot of different ways to really incorporate literacy into this math lesson. So notice that these stations cross subjects, right? We have PE, art, literacy, logic. They're all woven into our math lesson. And it's one outcome, many pathways, and students get to choose how they show their learning. So we're working towards student agency in action, right? So this is really great. We're combining everything that we need to in this section. The leadership in the school, the parents, when they see the learning outcomes, will know that, wow, we've included all the subjects. So art doesn't have to be a separate subject for the day. It can be included right there in math lessons. Okay, so all of this is going to take between warm-up, circle time or group discussion, main activity, and then these stations. It can take somewhere around 45 minutes. In Finnish education, it is important for students to have a break. So we call this an action break. And it's about 15 minutes. And hopefully your main lesson with all of its parts has taken about 45 minutes. And then you get 15 minutes of break. But this isn't a break from like, okay, now we have to go find the playground or we have to go somewhere else. You can do this break right in your classroom, and that's okay. And so you don't have to be coordinating schedules with other teachers who are using other parts of the school building. So after the stations, Rekla always includes an action break. So every one of my lesson bundles that you guys would take part in using will always have an action break to help keep the learning going, but to also allow the students to have some energy release. So for today's lesson in math, it could be jumping on a number line, clapping in patterns, moving around the room, playing a game. Action breaks release energy, they reset focus, and they help students re-engage with the next task, hopefully reinforcing the topic that you've been studying. For teachers, it means less classroom management because movement is already built in. So you know, the kids know, once you've been doing this structure for several days or a couple of weeks, the students are going to understand, oh, if I stay focused on my stations right now, I get to have an action break in a few minutes. And then they will stay motivated longer. So the last but very, very important part of the lesson is our reflection time. So I'm going to share here one more visual. Every Rekla lesson, throughout the lesson, we have continuous observation, assessment, but we also have reflection. And there are 3 layers to this reflection. We've got the teacher assessment. So as a teacher, you've already been observing through the stations, through the main activity, in discussion. You know where your students started. You know how they're progressing through the lesson, And so you can see what direction they're going if they're going to be meeting their learning outcomes. So you've been observing at all of these points in the lesson. And they're ongoing formative assessments that tells you what your students can already do. Throughout the stations, you have your peer assessments. So these are students explaining to each other, helping each other, thinking with their partner or with their group, giving feedback. I agree, but, oh, I think this. What if we try this, right? So there's peer assessment going on throughout the entire stations and main activity time. The last form of assessment that we want to talk about is self-assessment. So we will always step back and have the students take a few minutes to self-assess. And this is one of those things that you can create when you're developing this lesson. It's not an extra hard amount of work. It's just simply thinking about the skill and creating 2 or 3 sentences that can prove to you as the teacher that they understand. So I can sentences. I can compare numbers by showing or by explaining, blah, blah, blah. And they might circle a level on a simple rubric or put a check beside a sentence, or they can draw a symbol to show what they learned. And then you always want to have in that self-assessment, I've achieved it. I kind of get it. I'm almost there. I have a few questions, or I don't understand. I need more support. So you always want to put those in there. Research from John Hattie's Visible Learning confirms that both teacher clarity and student self-assessment rank among the highest factors for student achievement. If it's clear to the student what they need to do, then they can work towards something very specific. And in Finland, reflection is built into every lesson for exactly this reason. It empowers students and lightens the teacher's load. So I don't know if you're feeling like your load is actually being lifted. So I just want to share a little bit of the comparison between a teacher that is using a traditional lesson plan and planning in that way versus a teacher that is using a Finnish aligned structure with Rekla. So in a traditional lesson, you can see at the top, the teacher writes the objectives, makes the worksheets, does the lecture, assigns the practice, collects the papers, does the grading, and records the results. That's a lot of steps, and they're all teacher driven. The teacher is doing all of the workload. And the students, well, they're sitting at their desks. They're passively learning, filling in blanks. Maybe they're listening, maybe they're understanding, but we're not sure. We don't know for sure. In a Rekla lesson that is aligned with Finnish pedagogy, the teacher begins again, but instead of writing objectives, they're writing learning outcomes. So we're thinking about the end instead of the beginning. We're thinking about what we want to see at the end of this 45 minutes and how the students can demonstrate that. So we can set up a few simple activities and a rubric based on those skills. And then, of course, we do need to set up the stations. But once we have all of that set up, pretty much it's the student's job to do the work. So teachers will write the outcome, decide on the activities, create a rubric, and set that up. And then at the end of the lesson, the teacher gathers the evidence that was created during the stations. So by the time the lesson is done, the work is done. And the students, they're the ones that do the building, comparing, drawing, storytelling, moving, and reflecting in the picture at the bottom. So we definitely are taking a weight off of the teacher, and the teacher becomes the facilitator. So traditional equals the teacher works harder than the student. Rekla, Finnish aligned lesson planning, the student works harder than the teacher. And that's the shift. Less stress for you, more engagement for them. So let's just conclude. These Rekla planning moves: sparking inquiry, circle time or group discussion, student-led exploration, action breaks, and then our three-part reflection are rooted in Finnish pedagogy and supported by research. They keep students engaged while keeping your energy steady. What do you guys think? Let me know. Jot a comment below and tell me if you think this will really lighten your load in the class. The key is balance. When you protect your calm and energy, your students feel it too. Teacher energy really does equal student energy. If you want to see how a full Rekla framework works across subjects and grade levels, you can check out my blog that I have posted. You can go read that, or you can explore. I have a Rekla framework bundle in our store, and you can check that out as well. So thanks for joining me today. Now it's your turn. Which of these three moves will you try this week? Drop me a note and let me know what you think will work best in your class. Don't forget to like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Rekla Learning Studios. Thank you again for coming. See you next week. We will be beginning a new theme next week. So tune in and let's learn some more together globally.